I have a romantic view of dissatisfaction. I think this dissatisfaction makes us nonconformists, right? It makes us push forth. It makes us want to transcend and overcome and move beyond. It makes us want to go for the stars. I like that hunger in some ways. But I also have been told, and I've read in 1,000 bumper stickers, that it's not about the destination, but it's the journey itself. And the neuroscience tells us we are insatiable wanting machines designed to desire. Dopamine is the neurochemical that gives us pleasure and rewards us when we engage in novel behavior. So novelty, new experiences, new lovers, new places, new spaces, all these things get us off. We're wired for that. We're wired to mate. We're wired to spread ourselves everywhere. I mean, we've co-opted these functions, and now we use them for pleasure and sell them back to us in the market. Go to the casino. Go to this vacation, 5-star resort. I mean, we're just hijacking dopamine and selling it back to people. That's what's going on. That's social media in a nutshell. But still, these functions can be used for cool projects. We can work together to build starships of the imagination, and why shouldn't we? Now, this last video ends with a kind of bummer. It's like I haven't figured out yet how to deal with this chronic dissatisfaction. And I think aside from moonshot projects, working together in moonshot projects, that's solution one. Solution two, however, is how to forget ourselves for a while, right? Jerry Garcia famously said, to get really high is to forget yourself, and to forget yourself is to see everything else. My interest in stewarding the contents of consciousness, or as David Lenson wrote, stewardship of internal life, the desire to control the movie in my head, the desire to control the story, my own narrative, comes from the realization that that's all we got, right? A friend of mine once said that the beginning of a personal crisis is when the story that you tell yourself about yourself is no longer convincing. So you need to have a story, you need to have a narrative, you need to have, again, these maps of meaning that we've been talking about. But you know what you also need sometimes? To shut off the fucking monkey mind. To shut off the self. Neuroscientists call the self the default mode network, a complex network in the brain responsible for the sense of self that often we think is in control. The autobiographical mind, the voice in our head that lets us know that we exist, but also the inner critic, also the self-doubter, the self-loather, the excessive ruminator. It turns out people that are anxious and depressed, both of them are said to be suffering from an overactive default mode network. It becomes the terrible tyrant. Normally it's designed to orient you in the world, but then the default mode network goes into overdrive from trauma or fear or insecurity or lack of appropriate maps of meaning or not enough outlets to get ourselves off, which is a necessary requirement for mental health. So the overactive default mode network then again becomes this imprisonment. Keeps us paralyzed, keeps us from taking a chance, keeps us from doing anything. People who are depressed, too little possibility. They cannot envision anything beyond the walls caving in. People who are schizophrenic, too many possibilities. They're torn apart by too many possibilities. In both cases, the default mode network is overactive. But guess what? There's one reliable way to shut down the default mode network. And it's what elite athletes tap into, people, surfers, snowboarders. It's what writers, when they're in the zone, tap into. It's what jazz musicians, when they're in the pocket, tap into. This is known, of course, as flow. Two of my heroes, Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal, the co-founders of the Flow Genome Project, have just written a book called Stealing Fire about the altered states economy, the $3 trillion a year that human beings spend to get out of their heads. Flow is a state of consciousness in which you feel your best, which is pretty great, but guess what? You also perform your best. And flow is characterized by a feeling of selflessness. You're not there. The doer and the seer merge. Action and awareness merge. So you're in the zone, but you're not there. You're just that immersed that you forget yourself. So there's a sense of selflessness. There's a sense of timelessness, which I love. Time dilates and stretches. There is no time. The tyranny of time is transcended temporarily. We are relieved from that horrific ticking of the clock. Tick tock, tick tock. That's, that people mover carrying everyone towards death. We're relieved of it when we're in flow. So there's selflessness, there's timelessness. Finally, there's effortlessness. Whatever activity you're doing, whether it's writing, building, flying, fucking, surfing, skiing, it's effortless. It's flowing. And finally, richness. You have access to more information. Everything you need is being served up to your brain as needed. It's like the Limitless drug from the movie Limitless. That's how it feels. Now this is not just anecdotal. They did fMRI scans on the brains of freestyle rappers who are, of course, incredible to witness when they're just riffing stream of consciousness. They're in no mind. And the fMRI scans showed, they compared freestyling rappers versus rappers who were reciting memorized lyrics. The freestyling rappers, right, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, in other words, the monkey mind, the default mode, shuts down. So they can't no longer construct the sense of self when they're in that zone. The freestyle rapper is freed from himself. He has gotten out of his or her own way. You know how they say the only thing standing in your way is you? Not when you're in flow. Right? You've gotten out of your own way. The science has shown it. Not only that, but when you're in flow, creativity goes up. Your inner critic is not there, so risk-taking also goes up. You take a chance. You're not so worried about failing anymore. Pattern recognition goes up, so you make more calculations. You see more patterns. You connect the dots. As Isaiah Berlin said, to understand is to perceive patterns. So now you see more patterns. Associational thinking increases. So you make more far-reaching connection between ideas, right? Steve Jobs said creativity is just connecting things. When you're in flow, your network of associations widens. It's epic. And afterwards, you're left with that afterglow because performance levels go through the roof, productivity goes through the roof, and you fucking love it the whole time. You're having fun. You're in the zone. It's epic. Free of self, free of time, access to more information. It's amazing. So that's one solution to the human conundrum as we engage to work together towards building these starships of the future. Let's do it, but let's do it in flow.
Hello guys, how are you all doing? It's good weather. I'm really sorry for no video lately. It's just that I can't record my songs properly. It's the weather. It's so windy out here. I just can't record my songs. It's rattling on my windows and doors, and this construction too. Fuck, damn. Well, I'm looking forward for recording my songs in the studio, but it's gonna take a while, I guess. But I promise there's gonna be a new video soon. Thanks for the support, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.